Ladies, gentlemen, Speakerhead fans across the nation, don't forget you have 1 month to pick up your very own Speakerhead limited edition keychain. Link in the description.
Third-party Legend Scale Transformers have only been around for a few years now, but they've been rapidly taking over the collecting scene by storm. And as their popularity continues to grow, we get more and more figures of our favorite characters. But eventually we're going to get to the point where every single G1 character has been made as a Legend Scale figure. And because we are getting pretty close to that point, I wanted to sit down and talk about what we might come to expect from Legend Scale in the future. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Speakerhead, and today we're going to be talking about what to expect for the future of Legend Scale. But before we get into this video, if you enjoy any of this sort of content and want to see more of it, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We currently have a goal to hit 1,500 subscribers by 2024, so if you want to help me reach that goal, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you enjoy any of the music in this video or just want to support the channel in general, it's all part of my royalty-free music label, Speakerhead Studios. All the music on this label is completely royalty-free, so go ahead and use it for any of your content creating needs. Finally, I want to mention, if you want to support the channel through 3 different tiers, you can become a channel member today and get access to some exclusive perks. But now that we got all that out of the way, let's talk about what we can expect for the future of Legend Scale figures. And to start off, let's talk about what we currently have in Legend Scale. So between New Age, Magic Square, and all the other third-party Legend Scale companies, we've actually gotten pretty much every single character in the G1 cast already. For example, I know that New Age has a figure for every single Decepticon in Season 1, and I'm pretty sure that both Magic Square and New Age have pretty much finished the Autobots Season 1 cast as well. Then even talking about Season 2, the movie, and the later seasons, we still have a majority of those characters made in Legend Scale. However, there are some characters that either need a figure altogether or need an updated version of that figure. For example, we do have Legend Scale figures of Cup and Blur, but they are very old Legend Scale figures and don't really hold up to the standard of modern day Legend Scale figures. Because the main concept of Legend Scale figures back in the day was to have a teeny tiny little transformer that looked fairly decent. But the quality of these Legend Scale figures has vastly improved throughout the years to the point where they're being compared to masterpiece figures. So like I said, even though we technically do have Legend Scale figures of some of these characters, we could really use some updated versions to look like the rest of our Legend Scale figures. Then there are some characters that are actually even pretty iconic that just straight up don't have any sort of Legend Scale figure of them. And one character that comes to mind is going to be Sunstreaker. Now, I know we do technically have a version from Iron Factory, but that is a very stylized version of Sunstreaker. And there also was supposed to be a Sunstreaker released by McFans Toys, but unfortunately that never got released. And then another character that I know just doesn't have a Legend Scale figure is going to be Warpath. Now, I'm assuming that Magic Square and or New Age will eventually make figures of these guys, but those are just a couple of characters that I know are fairly well-known characters that just don't have any Legend Scale figures of them at the moment. And then some of the other characters that we don't currently have in Legend Scale are going to be some of the combiners, such as Defensor and the Protectobots, Predaking and the Predacons, and Abominus with the Terracons. But even though we don't have figures of these characters yet, like I said, I know that these Legend Scale companies will eventually get around to making these. And this brings us into the next point I wanted to talk about, which is the current figures we're getting from Legend Scale. So at the moment, with many of our smaller bots already being completed, we're starting to get a lot of the larger figures we didn't think we would be getting for a large time in Legend Scale, such as the Combiner teams, Jetfire, and even larger bots such as Omega Supreme. And as far as I'm aware, there's a Legend Scale Metroplex being made by a newer Legend Scale company. But right now we're starting to get a lot of larger figures that we really didn't expect to be getting in Legend Scale, at least not anytime soon. And because the list of figures they haven't made is getting smaller and smaller, it just makes sense that these larger figures are finally getting made. And then something else that we're getting a lot of these days besides new figures is going to be a lot of repaints and 2.0 of figures. Now, for a lot of people, this can be very frustrating. I completely understand. It's annoying to buy a figure, then get it re-released in a better color scheme a year later. But unfortunately, that's the point we're at with our Legend Scale figures. For example, Magic Square has been recently re-releasing a lot of their figures with a new paint job. I won't deny that these paint jobs look great, but it is kind of annoying that we're getting re-releases of these same figures we got a few years ago. And it's even happening with some of their newer release figures, such as their Ironhide. That figure's probably only been out for about a year now, and it's already getting a premium paint job. So for someone like me that likes buying a figure when it first gets released, it can be pretty annoying because then you have to buy a figure for the second time if you want a slightly better paint job. But then also going along with this, like I mentioned before, we're also starting to get 2.0 of figures that have already been released. For example, New Age released an Ironhide and Ratchet a very long time ago as one of their early releases, but now recently they've released a 2.0 of those characters. And yes, they are definitely better than their 1.0 counterpart, but once again, it is annoying that we're already getting characters that we technically already have figures of. And then another example of this is going to be Magic Square with their Optimus Prime. Once again, I definitely think that the 2.0 Magic Square Optimus Prime is much better than the 1.0, but once again, it is annoying that we already do have multiple Optimus Primes in Legend scale, so we don't really need any more. And for those who collect Masterpiece figures, I know you understand this struggle because it feels like there's a new Masterpiece Optimus Prime released every 6 months. But Legend scale is starting to catch up to Masterpiece in that sense because we are starting to get a lot of reissues in 2.0 of characters we already have. But now that we talked about what's going on with modern day Legend scale Transformers, let's talk about what we can expect to see from the future. So for the future of Legend scale figures, as sucky as it is, expect to get a lot of different figures getting a 2.0 of them. Because as much as a lot of these characters are really good, I can definitely see a lot of these companies making newer versions of these characters now that they've upgraded their engineering. And like I said, we're already starting to see a little bit of that with certain characters, but I know we'll definitely get more in the future. For example, I have bets that New Age is eventually going to make a new version of their Jazz. It's not a terrible figure, but it definitely uses the older engineering style that New Age used to use. But I could definitely see New Age making updated versions of some of their older figures, especially since the engineering has vastly improved since then. But something else I see for the future of Legend scale characters is that we're going to start getting a lot more of the smaller, not as known characters in this scale. So quickly talking about Masterpiece, the reason why a lot of these characters that aren't as well known aren't made into figures is because they don't know how many people will actually buy that figure since it's not well known. So a lot of these companies don't want to take the risk on making figures that they don't think people will actually buy. However, with Legend scale, these figures are much cheaper to produce, so it's a lot more likely we'll get a lot more not as well known characters in this line. For example, if New Age ever makes a Scourge figure, I could definitely see us getting an Alpha Trion figure as well. And the reason for this is because New Age is notorious for making as many repaints as possible out of a single mold. And these can even be remolds from characters that aren't even G1 related, such as remolding their RC mold into a Nova Prime, and also New Age remolding their Cyclonus into Depth Charge, which I really love. I think they did an amazing job with this. But as I was saying before, Legend scale figures are much more affordable to produce, so there's a good chance we'll get a lot more not well known characters. And then the last direction I can really see Legend scale going is branching off into different series. I know that might not sound like a surprise to people because that's what Masterpiece and Mainline are doing these days. However, I could definitely see these Legend scale companies starting to tackle some other Transformers series once they've finally completed their G1 cast. Going back to our previous example, New Age has already made a Beast Wars character, so I could definitely see them making some more Beast Wars characters down the line in Legend scale. And then another example of a series that they can make into some Legend scale figures is going to be the live action movie characters. There's already a Legend scale company out there that released a movie version of Optimus Prime in Legend scale, and I believe they're also making a Bumblebee as well to go along with it. But at the moment, other Legend scale companies are already dabbling in different Transformers series to make Legend scale figures out of. So in the future, I could definitely see both Magic Square and New Age making some Legend scale figures from different Transformers series. And considering the quality of Legend scale figures these days are fantastic, I'm all on board on getting some Legend scale figures from different series. But like I said, some series that we could probably expect them to do in the future is going to be Beast Wars, the live action movies, and a personal Transformers series that I would love to see made into Legend scale figures is going to be Transformers Prime characters. Out of all the different Transformers series out there, that's my personal favorite series, so I'd love to see some Legend scale figures of these guys. But at the end of the day, I'm not really sure where Legend scale will go, but we can just make some educated predictions on what we might eventually see in the future. But no matter what the future holds for Legend scale figures, I can't wait to see what comes next. But guys, that's going to be all my thoughts on what we might expect to see for the future of Legend scale. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know down in the comments on what you think we can expect to see for future Legend scale figures. But once again, if you guys enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. And finally, once again, if you enjoyed any of the music in this video or just want to support the channel in general, it's all part of my royalty-free music label, Speakerhead Studios, link in description. But that's going to be it for me, guys. I appreciate you checking out the video, and I'll catch all y'all in the next one. Peace! Big shout out to our channel members. Your guys' support helps keep the channel up and running, so once again, thank you guys for all of your support.